taking
I
up?
actually don't know if I did. Because I found my list that I made last year and I didn't complete any of them. So I thought maybe they're not for me. You're the first person that's asked me that. Have
Really?
you had
People just not do that anymore? I don't know. It's just
I don't know. It's enough as it is, you know.
It's enough. It's enough as it is. Okay. I mean, I didn't make any this year, other than just to drink more whiskey. Is that a New Year's?
That would be a good one, actually.
That's usually the kind of thing that everyone says they're going to stop. Sorry to say it, stop drinking less, but I drink more within reason and responsibly, and sipped and poured. Yes. So welcome everybody to 2024 and Pour and Sips 2024. We've got a bonanza in store for you tonight of a Pour and Sip special, and we are going to be starting our first dram of this year together. Is going to be the Dalmore 12-year-old. And me and Jess are going to be doing a brief little talk about that one and tasting of that one. And then where are we going, Jess? We're going...
Then we will get into our guests.
Yes.
So I believe, Andy, you are tasting the Clydebuilt.
Yeah.
With the wonderful David. And then I will be moving on to... I don't want to say this before I have someone to help me, but I think it's Meikle Tòir with Ronan. And then we'll have a quick round up with the two final drams, which is up to you if you taste them, because 5 whiskies is a lot.
Yes.
So we have a lovely Rebel Bourbon and the Oban, and then we will get all of your thoughts. So remember, we will ask you what your favourite is, so start thinking about it now.
Absolutely. And if you haven't joined us before for one of these tastings, please get involved. Welcome, firstly. And please get involved with your tasting notes, whether you have any questions for our guests or whether you just want to ask me a question.
Our guests have specifically requested lots of questions, so do not be afraid.
Yes, I'm just working through the comments here, just seeing where to start with these. Welcome back, everybody. Malcolm Tucker, welcome back. Colin Bathgate, good evening all. Nice to be back. Louise Fedina, 74, evening all, first timer here. Welcome.
Welcome,
Louise.
I was going to say, it'd be interesting to see who is new,
yes.
And like if you've been here for a while, what year of Pour and Sip is this for you? You know, because this is like essentially going into Pour and Sip's 4th year.
4th year? Is it 4th? Yes, into
well,
like,
it will be the 4th, sort of. We started in 2020.
It's a long time. Malcolm Tucker saying, welcome to Louise. Yes, very, very welcoming community here at Pour and Sip. Yes, Steve Conwell-Williams saying, welcome to the Madhouse. You'll love it. Steve Conwell-Williams, an absolute regular of ours. And Peter Gilmore, evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Okay, well, with that being said, I think as it is New Year, we should probably just try our first whiskey, maybe?
Yeah, crack it open.
Does that sound
4 minutes late, really.
So we've been talking enough. I've not even poured this yet.
Oh, well.
So we're going to be trying the Dalmore 12, and I think Dalmore's one of those, whiskies and brands that everybody recognises when they get. Everybody recognises that bottle, and everybody recognises that very, very famous stag logo that you'll see on the bottles. It's a Highland distillery, and that stag logo was a gift from King Alexander III of Scotland. And if you have tried much Dalmore, you'll see they have a very, very special bottle, which is a lovely bottle called the King Alexander III. It's a wonderful dram. And it's a 12-point Royal Stag, which was bestowed upon Colin of Kintyre after he saved the king's life from a charging stag. It was founded in 1839 by a merchant adventurer called Alexander Matheson, who wanted to create the exceptional single malt whiskey. In 1867, descendants of the Clan Mackenzie took control of the distillery, and then one of the first changes that they made when they took over was to adorn this beautiful stag on every bottle. I wish if we did have a guest, we'd probably have someone with a bottle.
No, I was just thinking how cool it would be if you could get like a teeny tiny dram stag. Yeah,
but it's meant to signal unbelievable quality, exceptional single malt. It's a very robust and fruity whiskey for a Highland whiskey, the Dalmore, and it stands up well to. It's very robust and stands up very well to sherry maturation. And most of the Dalmore range is focused on sherry maturation. This 12-year-old has spent 9 years though in an American white oak bourbon cask, and then half of it is transferred into Oloroso sherry casks for the final 3 years. So that's a little bit about Dalmore. Now I know people get a bit funny about it. I don't mind saying we haven't got a guest because. This is bottled at 40%. there's anything wrong with it or anything like that. So those kinds of preconceptions about that, we don't judge it by that. It's a very, very popular whiskey, this one. It's one you're going to see in lots and lots of different bars and stuff like that. It's a very nice one. And as far as I'm aware, it will be chill filtered. But yes. So shall we give this one a go?
Yes, definitely. I've never done just a tasting with you, Andy.
Also, she's usually a guest, isn't it? I've just like lost the ability.
So, but you've set right into the role. It's great.
I lost the ability to realise what I'm doing in this moment. I'm usually asking questions. So instantly on the nose, it's that wonderful kind of, for me, and I get it's like orangey chocolate kind of.
Yeah, really, really citrusy actually.
Very citrusy and lots of, like I said, juicy orange, chocolatey, Tòir's chocolate orange kind of vibes. A little bit of baking spices in there. Possibly a little bit of cinnamon. Peter Gilmore is agreeing with me there. Juicy orange to the nose. And Simon saying is 3 years for pour and sip for him. So fantastic.
Great.
Jeremy Anderson rejoined 2 months ago after being an original that had a 1 year or so sabbatical. What happened in that year? What made you decide that year you should stop listening to us on pour and sip?
So many tastings to catch up on.
Colin Barker, I have to say that Dalmore has a beautiful nose. Everyone says that. Malcolm Tucker, 34 months, nearly 3 years. Jane McIntosh rejoined last year, February 2021. See, lots of people leaving and then coming back. They always come back. So
they always come back.
They always come back. JB, first time with you guys. Anyway, it'd be really interesting to see what you guys are getting on the nose on this. I think we're going to go for a sip of this one, but for me on the nose, definitely the chocolate orange vibe.
It's really like milk chocolate for me. Like it's definitely like creamy and sweet.
Yes, absolutely. Loads of that sweetness coming through. Definitely kind of Christmassy kind of notes, and maybe would have been a good one for Christmas Day. Yeah, you jumped in, Slanger, everybody.
I'm sorry, actually, I realised when you were talking. How rude of me.
Really, really nice. Again, those chocolatey and orangey notes are definitely there on the palate. Maybe some hints of like kind of mocha, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say it's less sweet for me actually. Like the nose suggests to be like really sweet and creamy, but actually it's more like it's like mocha and cocoa notes.
Yes, absolutely. There's an absolute kind of sharpness there, which is, it's not a bad thing. It's nice. It's actually quite balanced with it as well. I'd say it's not. I don't know how to offer this. It's not like the most like creamiest of mouthfeels, I have to say. No. It's really, really. I'd say this is really drinkable. If it was,
the end is sort of like quite tart for me. Like
yes,
I don't know, like tart. I don't want to say like red fruit because it's not like a berry. It's more like, you know, when you bite into a plum which isn't ripe yet.
yeah, absolutely. It's really nice, and the finish is actually quite long. Everybody's saying here. Oh, sorry, I always lose my place with this stuff. Do you guys plan to do a Master of Malt indie bottling pour and sip special? That could be fun.
That would be fun.
It would be fun. We have obviously done some pour and sip kind of special bottlings, haven't we? Maybe a couple of special drams, though, haven't we?
We can find something special. There's so many. Don't know if we've done like a specific one from the Mom indie range yet. Obviously, we've had maybe some like Master of Malt exclusives, but I would have to check that. But if not, we will put in a good word.
Well, there you go. Paul Birrell, hi there. First time for me, present from one of my sons for Christmas. Looking forward to this. Welcome, Paul. Great present. What a present. You got great sons there. Malcolm Tucker, Dalmore notes. When I opened the bottle, it was like being hit by a Christmas pudding. After a little time, got hazelnuts and apples. Tony Capon. I joined a year ago. I quietly listened to all the learned breeders, fascinated by this wide and diverse world of whiskey, or whiskey with the E. Well, I would say welcome, John, but welcome, Tony, but welcome and to your comment of quietly listening and this time getting involved. Great stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Neil Bolton joined pour and sip near the beginning, if I recall. That's quite a few drams. It absolutely is. Right, anyway, on to the tasting notes. Jess, are you there with Simon's, start of Simon's, heaps of orange there?
Sorry? Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're coming with the tasting notes now. So Louise...
Just felt like I was doing a lot of talking. And I
no, that's fine. I was reading as well. Louise is also getting the chocolate. Peter Gilmore, a nutty smell but faint. I think, the nuts are like a little laid back on the nose particularly, but it sort of gets a bit more of that like dryness in the mouth.
Yeah.
Chris Randall, lovely colour, and honey, orange nose. Yeah, honey as well. It's like that, like creamy sort of like runny sweetness. Neil Bolton, milky chocolate, bang on there. Neil Bolton again, very smooth. Yeah, it is an easy drinker, like you said, Andy. JB, who I believe is also their first time on a tasting, or with pour and sip, if so, welcome. Getting the chocolate with a hint of cinnamon, love that. And Peter Gilmore is getting vanilla fudge on the finish, faintly.
Yeah,
everyone's loving it.
Yeah, everybody's loving this. I have to say, like, I agree. It's one that I hate this. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It's one that I would absolutely 100% introduce a non-whiskey drinker to as like an option.
I don't think that's it's so funny. People always have to preface that and be like, I would give this to a non-whiskey drinker, but in a good way. And it's like, that's great. I think.
I think this would be the kind of one that if you gave to someone who was undecided about whiskey or thought they didn't like it, they'd probably try this one, I think.
Yeah.
And it's really smooth. It's real easy drinker. There's the sweetness to it, and there was the kind of complexity to it that we were talking about towards the end of especially of the palate, when we're talking about kind of possible espresso kind of coffee notes and stuff like that. I think it's a really, really nice dram, this one, and I would drink responsibly. This one.
I want a bottle for the stag and for the whiskey.
And Clydebuilt and Christmas cake with lots of orange. A very easy drink and very good introduction. I have to say, we did have to, I don't know. No, we did. We had years ago, we had the Dalmore cigar malt.
Oh, you did? That was a very good memory.
That's probably a long time ago, but I think we did.
Oh, if not.
No, I tell you what, sorry. No, we didn't.
It was a cigar malt.
It was the Tom and Tal cigar malt. And I was talking to the guys there about Dalmore, obviously, because it's the only other cigar malt. But yes, the Dalmore cigar malt is definitely another good one to try from the Dalmore range. Obviously that King Alexander
cigar tasting.
Yes, absolutely. And that obviously that King Alexander III, if anyone's wallets stretch that far, it's a real beautiful dram. But this one's a great introduction to Dalmore as well. It's it's the kind of
it's one I always see and haven't tried.
Yeah. What's that? Sorry.
I feel like it's one that I always see, but I haven't tried. So it's actually really good to like finally get stuck in.
Absolutely. I say it's one of those brands that's like, it's just extremely recognizable. The bottles are recognizable, the stag logos, like you just know, you always see it.
Well done to Clan Mackenzie on that one.
Well done, Clan Mackenzie. Right. Just a couple more. Colin Barker, smooth, very drinkable. Dalmore tends to market itself as a premium dram, so it's a pity it's only 40%. But does this matter? It doesn't matter when it tastes like this. And like you said, I think whiskies aimed at different markets and things like that doesn't make it wrong. And I think this is one that is, in my opinion,
it's not for everyone.
aimed at people and to introduce people to whiskey and stuff like that. But at the same time, as a whiskey drinker myself, I would absolutely drink this. It's really, really nice and tasty, and that's the main thing.
What did you ask for?
Yeah, literally. Richard Wingrove, Richard Wingrove, would be perfect to have a slice of Christmas cake. Unfortunately, that has all been eaten already. Absolutely, same here. A Malcolm Tucker palette, cake, orange coffee, heat from ginger, finishing with orange marmalade. Peter Gilmore, lovely smooth whiskey. Jeffster, sorry I'm late, just back from the pub. Are we on the Dalmore? Love that. Yes, we are, Jeffster. But we've just finished it. And Tony Capon, the common theme here is easy drinking, which is great, but how do you stop yourself from having just one more? That is why we obviously encourage here at Pour and Sip and Master and Malt, responsible drinking and sipping. And this is definitely one that I would like to drink at a reasonable pace myself, where I'd have a few drams of this one. And yeah. That's about that. Pimbleby, COVID won't stop me, but can't smell or taste a thing, but it does feel smooth.
That's a whole new sort of tasting experience there, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Malcolm Tucker, may considering buying this or punt a tenner on the Master of Malt competition to win 4 Dalmore bottles. Is that a thing? That's happening?
That is a thing.
That is a thing? That's happening? Okay, well, there you go. That sounds like a good option. Jeff's yup, this is nice. Love the 15. Always have one in my cupboard.
Oh, it's like a stock whiskey.
Stock whiskey. Very nice. Jeff's. Right. I think we can probably move on.
Enough of us. Enough of us.
Like, it's just too much. And I have to say that's a really nice start. That's a great,
really good start.
Opener. That one, I have to say that dram. It's a good opener. Easy drinking. Nice.
Everyone's mellowed out. Everyone's had a nice dram. Ready to settle in.
So okay, Right, I'm going to invite Dave onto the screen, and I'm going to say bye to Jess, and I will see you soon. I will invite Dave onto the screen. Dave, how are you?
I'm very well, Andy. I'm very well. Thank you for having me on.
You are
Pour and Sip.
You are very welcome, Dave. And as someone
I'm
who has
delighted to be here.
not been on Pour and Sip before,
I have not been on Pour and Sip before, so I'm a little bit rusty at these things, and I'm very Scottish, so I'm making a conscious effort. Speak low and slow. So I hope you can all cut through my accent.
I'm sure our wonderful guests here in the comments will let us know if you start going too fast.
You can put subtitles up. Andy,
yeah, I will speak to Restream and the guys, and if they can do live subtitles for you. But actually, you will be able to. If you are watching on YouTube later on, we will have subtitles for you for Dave. So, for those who don't know about yourself, just talk to us a bit about yourself and how you got into the whiskey industry, and then how you found yourself in your current role.
Do you know what, Andy? I knew you were going to ask that question, so I was working out today how long I've actually been in the whiskey industry, and I was actually slightly shocked to see that it's almost 30 years. Yeah, I know I don't look that old. I wish, but yeah, it's almost 30 years. And I started in specialist whiskey retailing, the whiskey shop as a sales assistant when I was at university many years ago. And after being, I'd worked in forestry, Andy. I'd been an electrician. And suddenly it was almost like an epiphany. This is incredible. This has gone back to the mid-90s. Wow. So the boom, the whiskey boom that we all know now wasn't quite there yet. Gosh, I wish I had a time machine to go back to that retail shop and pick. Would anyone like to join me in having one of the first edition rare malt Port Ellens, which I think was on the shelf at £65?
Not anymore.
I mean, how many zeros can you add to that now? Ardbeg 30-year-old, 59, something like that. I'm going back. I mean, old school Macallans, 18-year-old. I can't remember how much it was, but it was a different era.
Those were the days. Pricing.
Those were the days. And from the whiskey shop, I moved to. I've had the pleasure of being involved with GlenAllachie Distillery, working with Jim McEwen, seeing that come back to life. The Port Charlotte range getting launched. I was instrumental in launching the Botanist Gin back in 2010. I've been with Billy Walker at Glendronach, Benriach, and Glenglassaugh. And that was slightly different with moving from GlenAllachie, which was maybe a little bit more pizzazz, PR, noise. Whilst obviously crafting fantastic whiskies, then moving across to Billy at Glendronach was almost the exact opposite. It was low key. It was just we're making good whiskies, and if people find us, they find us. And it wasn't like the PR-driven machine of GlenAllachie. Then I moved across with Billy, one of his founding team members at GlenAllachie, and that was in 2017. And that was a great time. Bringing people talk about a sleeping giant, and GlenAllachie was a sleeping giant. It was lost in the Chivas portfolio. Billy's second to none with working with wood and whiskey, and I learned a huge amount there, and it was great fun. Bloody hard work though, if I'm allowed to say that. It was unrelenting, launching a company like that from scratch, but great fun. I learned a lot. And then 2022, I moved to Northumberland, so in England, northeast England. Unfortunately, my time at GlenAllachie came to an end. But fairly recently, last year, I joined Ardgowan Distillery Company, and I've had a few offers, Andy. Hopefully, that doesn't sound.
I don't know if you know, I'm kind of a big deal. I had loads of offers; they're coming out my ears. Everyone wants to.
Not quite like that, but there was one or two people said, "What are you doing? Come and join us." And I said, "Do you know what? I'm happy in northeast England. I'm walking my Labradors. It's almost very like living in Scotland. People say that today's rain is tomorrow's whiskey. Well, that applies very much in Northumberland, the same as it does in Scotland. I can assure you of that." And I did a little bit of work with Ardgowan as well, which is Northumberland's only distillery. So if anyone's in the area, they should pop down and see that. It is a tremendous venue. It's a new distillery. And I say there's plenty of water, it's a very climate very similar to Scotland. But anyway, I was walking my Labradors on the beach, and the offer came in from Ardgowan, come and join us. And initially I said, thanks, I'm very flattered, but no thanks. You're building a distillery, you've got no stock, etc., etc. But they were persistent, Andy, and they said, look, come and see us. So I did. I met the team, some of the team in the pub. What a great place to have a chat about a new role. And I liked the guys. And they said, look, come and see the site. So I did. I went out and I saw the site, which is out at Inverkip on the west coast, Inverclyde area. And I walked around the site, and it's an old complex it's an old farm, Andy. Ardgowan Distillery is like an old farm that goes back to, I think it's 1840 that it was built. And it evolved. There was cottages added to it. There was a sawmill added. So you've got this little historical complex. You kind of sense the history there, that people lived there, grew up, married, had children, etc. And it's got the way the climate's gone, particularly in Inverclyde, the economic climate's a little bit challenged. It was fallen by the wayside, this beautiful farm and cottages. So the chance to come and be part of the distillery team and bring it back to life, and you know, when Martin, the CEO, and the rest of the guys at Ardgowan Distillery shared the vision of what they wanted to do, it felt like it was a right fit. Felt like it was time to leave the Labradors on the beach and get back to work. So that's how I came to be at the Ardgowan Distillery. I think it's 6 months. Yesterday.
And do you wish you were on the beach right now, walking the Labradors?
What's that? Sorry,
do you wish you were still on the beach though, walking the Labradors? That's the question.
It's bloody cold in Northumberland right now. It is bitterly cold, so I don't mind a little trip up to the west coast in Scotland, to be honest. And the distillery is getting built as we speak. And so it's tremendously exciting to be there and see that happening. Don't underestimate the challenges of a new distillery.
Yeah, I think
trying to get it up and running.
Yeah, well, on that note, I think before talking about, you know, the Clydebuilt, the Sailmaker, the dram, let's talk about a bit about the distillery, and you had something to share with us, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's new distilleries popping up everywhere, but the Ardgowan Distillery is quite an interesting idea, another interesting concept. It's the only company I know that I've been involved in. Every new distillery, making whiskey, building a distillery and making whiskey is hugely expensive. It is hugely expensive. And you have to wait so long to get a return on your investment, to get some money back. You have to keep putting money in. The guys in Ardgowan bucked the trend. So along with creating this distillery design, and I'll touch on a minute or two, they've also created their own bespoke casks. So this distillery is getting built right now as we speak, Andy. But there are thousands of casks seasoning in Jerez, and a cost of millions of pounds, specifically bespoke, designed with Miguel over in Jerez, to give super long maturation. And that was one of the kind of things that made me think this is slightly different, New Start. And the reason I'm doing that is a commitment to quality, Andy. It is a commitment to quality. And I think that immediately makes them stand out from other distilleries. So that was intriguing. And the distillery itself, like most new distilleries today, the focus is creating flavour, but also energy efficient. We need to reduce our energy consumption, the cost of energy, minimising our carbon footprint, etc. And I'll share a little, if I can get this right and not cock it up, I will share a little picture of the distillery just to show you. It's a slightly unique design. Let me see, share, is that going to work?
We got this, there we go.
You got that, guys. So
let me just add it.
It's like a Viking longhouse, Andy.
Wow.
Can you see that okay?
Yeah, we got it big, loud.
Yeah, so it's like a Viking longhouse style. And that's part of our theme of hospitality and family. And that was the thinking behind that design. Very expensive to build. Sorry, I'm sounding very much like a Scotsman here. But very expensive to build and very challenging to build. I don't know if you can see in that picture, but it's a tapering kind of sloping roof from front to back, which is incredibly visually striking, but challenging for the engineers. So we're absolutely delighted.
Yeah.
With the design, and it's good. And the little pictures on the right, and they're out of date already. That is concrete getting poured, I think, in October. And we've moved here. That's what
It looks amazing.
It is. It's an incredible design. And I see we have this family we call Clan Ardgowan. It's about people joining us and becoming part of our family. And we wanted to have, and it all kind of came from this theme of the Clan Ardgowan, the Viking hospitality, and the distillery design kind of reflects all that. It's like a home. It's our home. But I was going to say there, the photographs to the right showing the construction, etc. The steel should arrive, all being well, touching wood, the end of this month. And that'll be stage 2. At the moment, we made a big song and dance about construction started, and then basically people come and visit and all they can see is concrete in the ground. The next step is going to be the steel arriving, and I think when we see things, the building starting to reach for the skies, then I think again that's just another sign of progress, I guess, another sign of progress.
What's the time frame?
How long's a piece of string, Andy? We would hope to have this first spirit running around, let's say, October. Mm-hmm. That said, I met someone recently that, and I've been chasing people along, saying, "Oh, get this distillery built, get this distillery built." Then I was chatting with someone recently that built 2 distilleries, and he said, "Oh, don't chase them. Don't chase the guys. Let them build it right first time, because if you keep chasing them on, all you'll do is spend the next 6 months trying to fix the things that you rushed." So it was an interesting thought, and it certainly made me pause when I'm pushing continually. I'm very keen to get our own spirit, Andy.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's someone that's been there and done it and saying, "Look, make sure you get it right." So I'm going to say October, and that'll just be commissioning first. So actual production probably not likely to be very early 2025, Andy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's very exciting, and I think everyone will definitely have you on Pour and Sit when that first.
I'd be delighted to come back. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So I've been out of the game for so long, Andy. I'm a little bit rusty and a little bit nervous.
This is absolutely brilliant at the moment. So, but in the meantime of building the distillery, we're going to talk about what we're going to be drinking now. Sure. The team have ventured into this new release, the Clydebuilt. So, what's this about?
So Clydebuilt, so going back where we're located, Inverclyde out on the west coast, it's at the Firth of Clyde. Clyde engineering shipbuilding used to be a byword for quality. Did you know that once upon a time, 1 in 5 ships sailing at any one given time, 1 in 5 of them had been built on the Clyde? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
It's our brand, Andy, which we've created basically while we wait for our whiskey to come. So as I said, we've got our own casks seasoning in Jerez. We've got spirit we've bought from other distillers, laid down in casks of our choice, and we release these in the Clydebuilt range. So Clydebuilt is a blended malt. It's put together by Max McFarlane, our master blender, who's ex-Highland Park. And I think, again, he's something like 40, 50 years in the game as a blender. He knows his stuff. Very, very sherry-led. Max loves to work with sherry wood, which means he's a perfect match for Ardgowan, because that's going to be the style of our whiskey. He lives in Inverkip, which is where our distillery is, so it's a match made in heaven. So what we've done for this one, for Sailmaker, and it would be interesting for people, I think, to compare this. You've got Dalmore, single malt. Is it a 12-year-old you tasted, first of all?
Yeah.
12-year-old against a blended malt. If any of you got anything left in the glass, feel free to nose and taste and compare the two.
Wait a sec, there you go. I mean, the tiniest drop there left in my
well, perfect, because so you've got a 12-year-old single malt sherry, I think ex-American oak bourbon and sherry cask mature. Yeah. This is a blended malt. There's no age statement on it. It's drawn from casks that are around 7-year-old and 8-year-old. It's first fill Oloroso cask mature, so you might see that in your glass. I put a little bit of water in this.
I was about to say yours looks slightly.
Yeah, I put a little bit of water in mine. I've actually put too much water in mine, believe it or not. I've ruined it. So mine's a slightly different color. But you can see there the color. It's drawn that color from the cask, from the Oloroso casks. So look at that there. We don't use any artificial colouring. It's natural colour. We've bottled this at 48%. because I think the Max felt that the flavour was most balanced. But why don't we have a nose of it? And why don't we have a...
Absolutely. I mean, it's very, obviously Oloroso.
I was writing my notes when you guys were going through the Dalmore, and I was trying not to someone's talking about fudge. It's a different whiskey, but am I getting fudge? So what I wrote down here, I got a little bit of marmalade, a little bit of spice, and I wrote down here chocolate. And I say I've spoiled my measure by putting too much water in it, but this was before I added so much water. I don't know what people out there are getting on the nose, and I'm always conscious as well. If someone's tasting a whiskey with you and talks and tells you, you lead the brain. So I think for the palate, I'm not going to say anything and let people see what they come up with in the comments, and maybe what you come up with, Andy.
Absolutely.
Let's have a try and see what people find.
Yeah, there are quite a few notes coming in already. I'm just going to have a sip of this first before we It's lovely, and it's
balanced. I think it's one word.
What's that? Sorry?
Balanced. I think when I introduced this to people at whiskey festivals, you were talking about how easy drinking the Dalmore is. I think this Clydebuilt Sailmaker fits into that as well. But
there's obviously the extra strength on this, which kind of makes it slightly less easy drinking, and but there's like a lovely heat at the end of it, like a prickled ginger kind of heat, which is really, really nice. There's a lot of vanilla there at the start, and
there is vanilla. There is vanilla through it. Max has got that down in the official tasting notes. So well picked out, Andy.
There's a little tropical hint as well.
Yeah, I've got tropical fruit, and I put mangoes ? For it.
There's a lot of notes coming through. I'm just going to read out quite a lot of the notes as you had wanted us to, and see what our guests are thinking. Malcolm Tucker was talking about the nose first, getting wafts of tobacco, walnut, and woodland fruit.
Wow.
Steve Coleman Williams, from foam banana juxtaposed with the savoury smell you get when you walk into a bakery first thing in the morning when the loaves of bread are just coming out of the oven. Now, one thing I love about tasting notes like that is we all do the tasting and go, things, fruit, blah, blah, blah. But I love, and we love at Pour and Sip, tasting notes that are reminiscent of places and times and
exactly. That is the art of a tasting note to me. I think it's throwing out random words. Yeah, great. One of the arts of being a blender is having the nose to identify all the different nuances, but also the vocabulary and the memory to pull them through and see what you're picking up. I don't know I missed the name for who that tasting note came from. It
was a regular of ours, Steve Coleman Williams.
Perfect, Steve Coleman Williams. We will be in touch, and you can write our tasting notes, because I love whiskey. I know what I like. I know I can pick up all the nuances, but I struggle to write tasting notes. So that one's perfect. Exactly sums up what a tasting note should all be about.
Absolutely. But obviously, there are lots and lots of notes coming. That was a particularly good one. Simon, I'm getting tobacco through the cold, almost leathery nose. Richard Wingrove, no bananas here, getting some tobacco and something spicy, maybe cinnamon. Paul Birrell is saying it's very different from the Dalmore, getting tobacco and leathery notes. I think for me, the difference is on the nose. Like the Dalmore had this kind of milky chocolate kind of vibe, but this one on the nose is chocolate, but it's definitely not dairy milk chocolate. There's definitely kind of a darker.
It's dark chocolate. That chocolate I wrote down in my tasting note before I killed it with too much water. I could top it up, but it was quite a hefty dram to start with. So, and it's a school night, so I'll just do as it is.
Jeff's saying ready rubbed pipe tobacco to me.
Wow.
There you go. Wow. Peter Gilmore, I love the office balcony with view. Steve Conway, I love how distilleries get. Oh, sorry, they're talking about the picture of the distillery. Sorry, I've just remembered. I think. That's going to be a tasting bar, guys. That's going to be upstairs. I think it's going to be a tasting venue, hospitality, and you can go out there and get. And it looks right. That's looking south, so it'll look right down over the Clyde. That looks awesome. I would love to have a taste. That looks like what a place to have a tasting session down there.
Yeah, no, give us a couple of years and a year or so, and then get yourself down.
I would love to. Jeff's the blimey, a short, spicy finish, summer fruits on the palate. Simon saying that's an iconic design. Love the balcony.
Thank you, James.
Lots of good comments about that. Peter Gilmore, the palate, lots of ginger, dry fruits, creamy, and mango. Again, that's what you were saying, Dave. Malcolm Tucker palate, woody tannins are definitely to the fore. Got a fleeting taste of tropical fruit before black pepper heat finishing on raisins. P. Barrett.
Sorry, Andy, I'm coming across you there.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Coming back to water, I have someone. Do the majority of your guests, do they put a little bit of water in it, or do they take it straight, given that it's 48%?
It's always a topic of discussion that we have on Pour and Sip with different drams. That's one for you to decide as well on this particular dram, or tell us as you've tasted a lot more. I mean, to me, I'm drinking it neat. I haven't put water in it. I do think if I had I would possibly after a couple of sips maybe open it up slightly with a drop or two.
That's what I would always suggest for any whiskey. Try it straight and then try it with just a few drops of water. Unfortunately, I've left my pipette somewhere and I was giving it the old-fashioned slug out of a jug, and I got a dollop rather than a few drops. But yeah, that's what I would suggest. Try it straight and then a few drops of water. But ultimately, it's all personal preference.
It's absolutely all personal preference. I think the thing is as well, if you like this dram in particular, you can obviously head to our Pour and Sip store where you can get a nice members discount on this. And then if you have a full bottle, you can feel free to add water and drown it just like Dave has, and then not worry so much about the consequences at the end. P. Barrett, this is a lovely dram packed with multiple flavours and so smooth with a delicate fruity finish. I'm rather picky about blends, but this one is exceptional. We've obviously had a lot of people on Pour and Sip converted with the kind of unjust snobbery about blends just in general, and tried many amazing blends on this through our subscriptions and through trying lots and lots of drams over the years. This is no exception. And is this a mix of is a blend of I think you're saying the Highland, Lowland, and
it's blended malt. There's 6 distilleries in here, Andy. Mainly Speyside and Highland, but for this one we've got a couple of others in the range. For this one, for the first time ever, Max added in a Lowland. There's one Lowland distillery in there.
Was there a reason for that in terms of the flavour profile?
I think we just had some good stock. Max works through the stock that we have, what conditions it's in, etc. And he just thought, well, this works well. We had a nice parcel of Casa from the distillery just down below us, and they were great quality. So Max blended some in. So no real reason other than quality.
That's great. And this is obviously a dedication to quality all over the brands here. And just a few more notes. Bill saying a little water has helped, so it's just a couple of drops only. Neil Bolton would love to visit some of these places, maybe a future road trip in a cheeky 2-seater with the roof off. Pexman, I start neat, then I put a small drop of H2O in. Chris Randall, a drop of water opens the flavour and sweetens the finish for me. Very nice. Malcolm Tucker again, start with it straight to begin, then a drop of water if I feel required. And Steve Coleman Williams is saying #end blend snobbery. Steve Coleman Williams was also saying we also just tip a tip of the hat to the colour. Love a nice dark dram. Absolutely, there's a wonderful kind of sherry glow to this one. And yeah, it's absolutely beautiful stuff. And thank you so much, Dave, for talking. I'm aware of the time.
No, it's been a pleasure. I'm conscious I've talked too much, but thanks.
No, you're not there. I guess
visit our website. If anybody wants to know more. Nobody's heard of us. A distillery is getting built. You've given me so much time, which I've overran. But anyone pop along the website and ask us a question, and we'll get back in touch.
Well, there you go. And I would love that we can one day have the
You're very welcome
in this subscription box. Thank you so much for chatting with us, Dave. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks again for having me.
Cheers. Right, that was amazing. That's a really wonderful dram and a lovely chat with a great guy. How are you, Jess? Were you drinking along?
Yes, of course. What a question.
Of course.
Yes, and blend snobbery. Very much for that.
Hashtag #blend snobbery. Absolutely, that's some wonderful ones on this channel. So I think we'll move on. Yeah. So I'm going to invite Ronan onto the screen. How's it going?
Hi, how are you doing?
Yes, not too bad, thank you. I'm just going to leave you in the capable hands of Jess. I'm going to go and grab a refreshment or something, you know, maybe an ice cream or something like that. But in the meantime, I will see you soon. Cheers, everybody. I did take myself off the screen. I was just about to take you off, Jess. Not a joke.
Leave your empty
accident. Myself.
Hey, Ronan, how's it going?
I'm well, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm feeling I'm feeling cozy. Feeling cozy, and I've got our next dram lined up in my glass. I actually poured this one to like let it mellow out for like 10 minutes, and like I could smell it. It was like halfway across my desk and I could smell it. So.
Yeah, it's got a very sort of prominent, quite distinctive, obviously peat smoke smell, but it's
lovely. It's like really aromatic.
Yeah.
But before we get into the dram itself, it'd be great just to like hear a bit about you and like, you know, how come you're here? How do you come and get into the whiskey industry?
Yeah, so I'm sort of, I actually think the same as everyone, I sort of got into the whiskey industry by accident.
Join the club.
Yeah, I finished university and I'm a Campbelltown boy, so I moved back home, started working in some bars and stuff, and my younger brother was working in the Cadenhead Independent Bottler Whiskey shop in Campbelltown, and I sort of get sick of late nights and dealing with drunk people, so I asked him if there was any chance he could wing me a couple of shifts in the whiskey shop, maybe doing some tours around Springbank. So thankfully, I actually managed to get a job in with Cadenheads at the time through a lovely piece of nepotism, which I'm all for. And yeah, so it would have been about 9 years ago I would have started. Started working for Cadenheads, and because of the connection between Cadenheads and Springbank and Glengyle Distillery, after a couple of years I moved on to Springbank and worked for Springbank Distillery in Kilkerran, whiskey for about 3.5 years.
Wow.
Before I sort of looked after parts of Europe as a sales rep and parts of Asia as well. Before then moving on to GlenAllachie, which would have been about 4.5 years now, and started was in the sales team, actually working under David. David was the person that recruited me to GlenAllachie, and from there sort of got involved working alongside our master blender Billy, and sort of moving more into the sort of blending and the blender side of the whiskey industry, and sort of drifting further and further away from the sales sort of aspect.
Cool.
So whiskey's the only real job I've actually had, so it's been a fun 9 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so obviously you have been talking about GlenAllachie, but obviously the whiskey that we have is called Meikle Tòir. And am I saying that right? Because I feel like
you're bang on. That's perfect. I've heard a lot worse, that's for sure.
My faith in my Scotch pronunciation is like hanging on by a thread. But yeah, it'd be great if you could just sort of talk us through like obviously the connection and like the project itself. So it's not immediately. I don't know. I don't have a full bottle because I only have the drams. But does it actually say GlenAllachie on the label, or is it like a whole separate thing?
I'll just tell you. I should probably know that, but
testing you.
It doesn't say on the front, but it does say on the back label that there is a connection to GlenAllachie, and obviously we have the same master blender and assistant blender as GlenAllachie. So so Meikle Tòir is, on a basic sense, the peated distillate that comes from GlenAllachie Distillery. So GlenAllachie Distillery is our brand home. But obviously GlenAllachie, if people have tried it before, is a very sort of traditional Speyside, non-peated, quite heavily sherried, very fruity, very floral sort of whiskey. So in 2017, when Billy Walker purchased GlenAllachie Distillery, there was always a sort of aspiration to try and run a sort of peated campaign and really show the sort of diversity of what GlenAllachie Distillery can produce. So our first peated campaign ran in 2018, and then from there we've just been sitting, maturing the spirit and watching it develop. And when it came to releasing the product, we thought, let's try and separate it away from the name of GlenAllachie, because it is quite a vastly a different spirit, starting off a different life and being peated malt. The process in which this Meikle Tòir has gone under in terms of production process is different to the GlenAllachie you're tasting today. So we wanted again to make it slightly different, while holding some sort of connection.
Okay.
So in terms of production in that aspect, anything from 2017 to today and onwards at GlenAllachie goes under 160 hours fermentation.
Wow.
And we don't produce as much. We produce a lot slower. We don't overrun our stills. We try not to work too hard. The big difference between the GlenAllachie you'd be tasting in the bottle today and Meikle Tòir from a basic point of view would be a longer fermentation of 160 hours. Again, that's why we wanted to separate it away from GlenAllachie. But yeah, so it starts its life off quite different, obviously quite heavily peated. The malted barley starts at around 80 ppm.
Okay.
Then through a long fermentation. And then for the one that we're trying tonight, that we've released at 5 years old, released at 48%, non-chill filtered, no added colour. It's been matured initially in American bourbon, and then it's been finished for the 2.5 years in virgin Chinquapin oak. Which Chinquapin is a Native American oak, which is different from what you would say is your standard American white oak or your Quercus alba. It presents slightly different flavours to what you would traditionally associate with American virgin oak. And we felt the sort of balance between this sort of peat ember smoke and the traditional flavours you would get from a Chinquapin wood, which are really sort of licorice, aniseed, fennel, butterscotch, burnt toffee. We felt this would combine really well with the sort of peat smoke development that we've managed to achieve from the spirit.
How would you sort of describe the smokiness that you get in the spirit itself? Because obviously, you know, sometimes you have sort of like floral smoke, you can get like quite more savoury smoke. Like, how would you describe it from sort of a production point of view?
So we specifically went out and sourced, which is wildly different from what the peat you can source from an Islay distillery or from Islay, and what Islay distilleries will use. It all comes down to the sort of what essentially makes the peat. So in the mainland, it's a degradation of the trees rather than the sort of seaweed, herbs, and sort of vegetation that you would find on Islay. So in turn, this results in a different flavour pie from the peat once you burn it onto the barley. So you're looking at a slightly sweeter, sort of drier smoke. You don't get any of that iodine flavour, don't get any of that seaweed sort of coastal notes that you get from Islay whiskies. It's more sweet, fruity, a little bit drier, a little bit more earthier, sort of herbaceous. So it comes from St Fergus, which is just sort of northeast of GlenAllachie towards Peterhead. And this again comes down to when you look at something like longer fermentation, you're adding a lot of fruit characters in there, lots of banana, sort of lots of orange peel from the fermentation. And you start with a peat that gives a lot of fruit development in the barley itself. These are combinations that we're looking to then enhance throughout the process before even moving into maturation. Yeah. So if you don't like peated whiskey, or you sort of shun away from peated whiskey because you've tried a Lefroy quarter cask and you've went, oh, that's blown my head off, I would suggest put those sort of thoughts to the side and sort of look at this, because it is a different peat smoke experience. It's more smouldering embers, campfire, that sort of level.
Yeah. I was going to say, I hadn't even had a proper nose yet, but It's sort of like it is. I mean, I'd say it is very prominently smoky, but it's like completely matched by like quite a lot of sweetness for me, which is really nice.
What we're really trying to do here is present the peat smoke, which is obviously, as it is peated whiskey, is like, yeah, that's the sort of first thing you sort of think of, or the first sort of thing I would say about it. But we want that to be part of the overall sort of flavour experience and not the only thing you taste.
Yeah.
Whether you're trying it neat at 48 or you're adding a couple of drops of water, that we don't want the peat smoke to completely dominate the rest of the flavour. We want the distillery character to come through. We want the cask maturation, the amount of money we plough into the wood profile to come through, and we want the peat smoke to complement that and be a sort of well-rounded, balanced whiskey rather than just a punch in the face peat.
That's it's funny you say that because I'm just getting some tasting notes through, and Pexman said this smoke gives me a solid punch in the nose, but it's lovely.
Well, one of us is wrong.
I would say like it's sort of, without it saying it, like, you know, obviously I haven't had a sip yet, but without saying it sort of blows your head off, like it's really powerful. But I think, yeah, it's like, it's not like it's completely balanced and equally matched by a lot of other like nuances, a lot of like, I think it's sort of honey for me, honey sweetness, sort of like sweet citrus. Yeah, it seems like quite syrupy to me on the nose. But we're getting some lovely tasting notes through. We've got Steve Gorman Williams getting smoke. Colin Bathgate, this smoke has been wafting up to me since I poured it 45 minutes ago. Jester, this is what you want to smell and drink on a cold night like tonight, and I could not agree more. I'm so happy that I've got this one to chat with you. Malcolm Tucker, for the nose that is, he's getting polishing my old leather school shoes while my dad's pipe smoke drifts across the room. Very evocative. Peter Gilmore, smoldering wood cigar smoke and heather. Like you were saying, it's sort of like that woody smoke rather than obviously a lot of like savory smoke as well. Louise Vadino is getting smoky barbecue sauce. Exactly. It's like the smoke and the sweetness, like all combined. I think it's very well, it's very like well integrated. Like it's not like two things are fighting for me anyway. But yeah, it sort of sounds as well from your description of Chinquapin oak that it's sort of somewhere in between like the classic American oak and European oak characteristics, where you get like herbal and spice and then sweetness and creaminess. Have you used it before at the distillery?
So we've used Chinquapin before. We're big fans of Chinquapin oak because it is quite unique and it gives off different flavours. But we believe it complements the sort of the spirit we're producing. But we've used it before with GlenAllachie and sort of finishing GlenAllachie that we inherited from Chivas. What Billy inherited from Chivas, we've used Chinquapin virgin oak to sort of change the flavour profile from the sort of mostly bourbon-led spirit that we inherited. It's something we're really, really fond of. We love the flavours that's coming through. Virgin oak can be quite sort of not difficult to work with, but you need to watch it quite intensely because, as it would suggest, the cask hasn't had any previous spirit of sherry, bourbon, wine in it before. It can interact with the spirit really, really quickly. You don't want to overpower it. You don't want to overcook the whiskey that you've got. So when working with something like Chinquapin, which was new to us in maturation, we monitored this really, really closely, especially the combination of Chinquapin and peat. We monitored it just to make sure we weren't overcooking anything. And but the reason we've come out with the 4 different Meikle Tòir releases, sherry, the Chinquapin, which we're trying, the original, and the turbo, which I think was a big hit everywhere. The reason we came out with them at 5 years old is because we've been monitoring them and we think they were ready at 5 years old. And we thought, well, let's whack it on the label and tell people about it, that this is what you can do with 5-year-old spirit. If you've got good process, good production, good maturation. Yeah, so yeah, we thought 5 years old, slightly higher strength at 48.
I mean, all for any form of transparency in whiskey, particularly. Is that, how long did this spend in Chinquapin oak then?
So you've been about 2 to 2.5 years in Chinquapin virgin oak. So you're getting a lot of
So lengthy, would you call it a finish or more of a secondary? I guess it's half the time, isn't it? It's more of a maturation for this one.
I guess
I don't know.
I can be corrected, but my understanding is that the difference between a finish and a second maturation is a marketing department.
Yeah, which is part of I work for. So that's probably why I'm going down that road.
So you could say it's a finish because that's the cask it's been finished in. Because it's a sort of half and half between the initial bourbon maturation and the second half of a Chinquapin oak. You could say like that's a secondary finish, second maturation, extended maturation, whatever you would want to say. It's been finished in Chinquapin oak, medium char, medium toasted Chinquapin oak. So you're getting a lot of that sort of burnt toffee, cinnamon, creme brulee coming through from the sort of the toasted sugar in the oak that comes through, and it just presents an absolutely fabulous whiskey, I think. But yeah, for the age of the whiskey, you are a decent proportion in that secondary maturation vessel of the Chinquapin oak. Again, with these, if you're finishing whiskies, we find that you really want to get as close to sort of 2.5, 3 years as possible, because you don't want to have that. Yeah, you can taste the sort of the bourbon influence that's coming through, and at the end there's a spot of Chinquapin or a spot of sherry or a spot of red wine or whatever it is. You want the integration between the initial maturation and the secondary maturation, because you are looking at a balanced whiskey. And then on the side of sort of transparency and stuff, something I've found quite cool about what we've done with Meikle Tòir is obviously the ppm, the phenols per million or the peats per million, parts per million of the barley before malting, distillation, etc. was 80 ppm.
Oh.
We actually went and got the liquid in the bottle tested after maturation, after bottling, to test what the phenol count was, so we could tell people what you're actually trying within your glass.
That is so interesting, because I was actually going to ask you, like, because obviously you talked about such a long fermentation. I was going to ask you if any of the sort of ppm would be lost by increasing it so much, but you've already answered it for me.
Yeah, so you do lose a sort of ppm and a sort of phenol count throughout the whole process and through maturation. So the Chinquapin is at 35 ppm in the glass, what you're trying today. So you've went from a 80 ppm barley down to a 35 ppm. So it's quite unusual to get that, or for someone to tell you or to test what the actual liquid is. Usually you get told what the barley was, and through sort of general sort of guessing, well, it's 21 years old and it was 45 ppm, so it should be quite low now, that sort of thing. But we really wanted to tell people what they were actually trying in the glass, because we felt that was sort of a cool sort of aspect of the whiskey. And 35 ppm in the glass is actually pretty high. I mean, starting at 80 ppm is really high, but managing to get around 35 ppm in the glass that's a big peat whiskey, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I just had my first sip because I was talking too much. But yeah, it's like, I think the sort of lingering flavors that I get is actually not dominated by smoke. It's at the end gets really, really woody smoke for me. It's got a lot more of that sort of, it's almost like florals or like really delicate citrus at the end. We've actually got a lot of people getting a sort of hospital like TCP vibe on the nose, but for me that doesn't come through on the palate much. We've got some more tasty notes. Everyone is like getting really into these. It's so good. We've got David Norcross with barbecue ribs. I think this barbecue is really like hitting it on the nose for me. Clive Hampton, big smoky nose but less so on the palate, sweet and fruity, and another lovely dram. Chris Randall, smoked citrus fruit with a lovely balanced sweetness to manage the strength. Very nice. I could totally agree. Paul Birrell has been impressed with all three, so we've got another one that's hitting the marks. P. Barrett, nose is dominated by peat with some hints of sweet chestnut. I personally haven't had a chestnut, but that sounds really nice. Malcolm Tucker says the palate is like licking a licorice stick while sitting downwind in campfire smoke, and then heather honey towards the end. That heather honey note is like bang on for me on the finish.
Heather honey is quite a typical GlenAllachie spirit flavour, sort of tasting note. We will find that in quite a lot of GlenAllachie produced whiskies, heather honeys with a very sort of traditional one. It does carry on into the Meikle Tòir, the Chinquapin. I didn't catch the person's name, but the person that said that it was licorice and campfire smoke, downwind from campfire smoke. They're pretty bang on. The politest Malcolm Tucker I've ever heard of. The tasting notes for the palate at the end, it's aniseed, which is sort of licorice as well, aniseed and campfire smoke. So he's, unless he's sitting with a bottle there, that's pretty bang on.
I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping he just has a dram, or he's way ahead of the curve with getting a full bottle. But yeah, a lot of aniseed mentioned as well by Richard Wingrove and quite a few others. I think it's like bringing everyone back to the campsite. It says to Alex Battersby, reminds me of the smell of unpacking camping equipment.
It does get that. It's the combination of a medium char, medium toasted cask that imparts the slight sort of burnt toffee, burnt cinnamon, caramelized brown sugar sort of flavour, and this Chinquapin oak, and the sort of the type of peat we're using, the mainland peat, gives you this softer, I'm not sure, sort of flavour profile. We're trying to avoid that, but it's the smouldering oak, the embers, the ash type of peat flavour that we're looking for.
Yeah, it's not actually overwhelmingly spiced for me. I think it's like quite delicate on that front, and it's just mainly about the sort of integration of the like. It's more like botanically almost, which I feel like is like, you don't want to use that word much for a whiskey, but
it's got that sort of soft spice, slightly herbaceous sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right as well. Yeah, I mean, I think David said it as well. I mean, tasting notes are completely subjective, and
that's why I love this so much. Yeah,
a lot of what people will be getting tonight they'll be put in a direction by what they've had for their lunch, if they've had their dinner already tonight, how much coffee or tea they've drank today. So,
if you've been camping in like your childhood.
It's that sort of thing. You can't, as you were saying, you've never tried a chestnut before, so you don't know how to sort of side with that sort of tasting note. So you can only taste what you've tasted, I suppose. So that's the great thing about whiskies, and it's the great thing about introducing new whiskies and sort of slightly unusual cask types as well. Because a lot of people probably haven't heard of Chinquapin unless they've tried the Chinquapin whiskey before. So it's bringing up all these sort of emotive flavours, or memories is always a good one. I find with whiskies, it's difficult to put into words what you're actually tasting. It's a lot easier to go, this reminds me of a time when I did this. Sometimes I think, tasting notes should actually just be actual what people go, this puts me in a campfire on the west coast when I was doing this, because that's the flavour it's giving you. So it's whiskies are brilliant like that. And tasting notes are sort of, I mean, I write them, and they're completely subjective.
Exactly,
they depend on
anything to someone else. Well, your mention of sort of like unusual cask types brings me very smoothly onto what probably might have been my last question, because time has flown. But it seems like, sort of cask exploration, and obviously these Chinquapin, maybe a bit of like experimentation, is quite like key to the Meikle Tòir range. And I was just wondering, what is next? Can you tell us, or sort of what are you looking for?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, and I can get into trouble. With Meikle, because it's still a young brand, young spirit, we are on the sort of edge of, we're tiptoeing at different things and seeing what has worked. Today, for example, I was looking at peat and different barley varieties, peat from different sites, whether it's from Orkney peat or Islay peat, or mainland peat, and sort of flavour development there. With 160 hours fermentation is actually our shortest fermentation at the distillery. So I'm looking at peat that's been fermented for even longer than that. So Meikle Tòir has got no boundaries in where it could go. We have spirit, Meikle Tòir peated spirit in cask types from all over the world. Any type of wine, any type of port, Sauterne, Muscatel, Madeira. Yeah, so it's the sort of, we have a blank canvas with Meikle Tòir, and we've got a lot of paint pots, and we're we're dipping in and we're looking to sort of try and put something together, and hopefully people think it's a masterpiece, I guess. But we've got loads of different sort of variations of what we can do. It's quite exciting. You're sort of tasting mainland peat against peat source from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So you're directly looking at the comparison. So there's the 4 whiskies we've released. Obviously the 3 sort of original Chinquapin and Sherry are all sort of 35 ppm. The turbo, which is quite limited, as it would suggest, is a sort of supercharged, I think it was around 71, 72 ppm in the glass whiskey. So that's knock your socks off, sort of at the peated level. So yeah, we've got room to go.
Sorry, I think I interrupted you there. I was going to say, with the you're talking about the different peat types and peat like terroirs, I guess. But would you, if those do get released, would you sort of expect to see those disclosed? Like, would that be like a sort of series, I guess, like different peats, or am I jumping the gun here?
No. I mean, if we look into releasing Meikle Tòir and the peat that we've used to dry the barley has been sourced from a different location, then that would be something we'd be looking to tell people, because we think if you're taking peat from Orkney or peat from Islay or peat from the mainland, that if there is a complete different sort of flavour profile, especially between Islay and the mainland peat, would be quite noticeable. And that's something we would be looking to tell people, because that's what they're trying, and it's good to be sort of open and transparent about that sort of thing, because then people have a sort of understanding of what we're looking to do. And
Amazing.
So yeah, we're probably a long way off releasing anything with Islay peat, because we've just dropped the sort of Meikle Tòir range as it is now. So we're growing, but watch the space.
I will be. I'm intrigued. I can't wait. But yeah, my gosh, I can't believe the time. But thank you so much. I'm sure Andy will like magically appear on the screen again. But that was such a joy. Yeah, yes. I haven't tried Chinquapin egg before, so a first, delicious first.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much for chatting, Ronan. That was
thanks
really
very much for having
interesting to hear. And we've got to try bourbon now after that heavily peated. But yeah, cheers, Ronan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Right. Well, as guests done, I think we shall move on to our final 2 drams, and then we can get moving with our final questions.
Yes. Yeah. You know what, I spotted that people have already been expecting, like, planning their answers. So
yeah, but I mean, they've been in here long enough. I think they know what's coming. Hold your horses. I've tried them all yet.
That's true.
All right then. Do you want to start with Rebel Yell? Because that's just because I'm holding in my hands.
Yeah. So this is a Rebel 100. I think it was called Rebel Yell, and I think the name has changed. Okay. So if you knew Rebel Yell, I believe it might have possibly just rebranded to Rebel Bourbon. I might be wrong, but this is just called Rebel 100, and it is a fabulous Kentucky bourbon. Yeah, honestly, I think it's just sort of one of those. It's like if you want to try bourbon, you've never tried a bourbon before, I would recommend starting here. This particular one was only introduced in, I think, April 2019, and it's a wheated bourbon, which is less common. And actually, this is released at 50% ABV, so it might be the punchiest that we've had this evening.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's got all those wonderful notes. You get a lot of creaminess from the wheat. You get a lot of corn sweetness as well, and actually a lot of spice I get as well. So if you are tasting this one, obviously we've had 3 drams. 5 is a lot. If you are tasting on, let us know what you think.
Yes.
I really, really like this. Just as like I love bourbon. I think bourbon was what got me into really appreciating whiskey, because it's obviously quite easy drinking in a good way.
Yeah. Absolutely. 50%. Is it called Rebel 100 because it's the proof? Is that what it is? Is that why?
Good observation. Yes, Andy. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
No, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm like, because I remember Rebel Yell as a brand, but I've not heard it, so I don't know if this was just like, yeah. Anyway,
Yes.
so
I believe 100 proof, 50% ABV. They double it across the pond because it sounds better.
it does sound better. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why.
Um,
I mean, there's something satisfying in saying 100 proof rather than 50%
Yeah.
ABV.
Yeah, prove it.
Yeah. So no, lovely stuff. And finally, our last one that we're going to be trying is the Oban. Now, I've been told it's pronounced, so could be wrong, but I've been told. The Distillers Edition 2022. We've had Distillers Editions before, so like Lagavulin do one. We had the PX Lagavulin one. We've had maybe a Talisker one, I think, as well. Can't remember. But anyway, Oban is one of the. It's like literally like built 208 steps from the sea, and it's one of the smallest distilleries in Scotland. So it's only got 2 stills, and we had Dave talking about worm tub condensers with the worm tub, the boutique, but this is again one of the very few distilleries that still uses worm tub condensers, and there's quite because the speed of these condensers is kind of minimal copper contact, and it usually creates a heavier spirit, but these worm tubs are run hot, and the doors of the still are opened up to distillation, which allows more oxygen to come in and rejuvenate the copper. And in turn, this makes this a lighter spirit. This is the 2022 release of the classic, the Distillers Edition. And it's finished in something I've not tried before, which is Montilla Fino Sherry casks before release. So Fino Sherry being the driest of all the 5 kind of main styles of sherry. Fino is the kind of the driest, so you'd expect some kinds of nutty elements possibly in this one. And again, it's one that I really enjoy, having not tried much Oban before. Have you tried much Oban before, Jess?
No, I feel like it's something. It's not. It sort of flies under the radar a bit for me.
It does. I think the 14's like this really kind of like
Yeah.
very renowned, and you often see it in bars and stuff and in people's back bars. But other than that, there's not much that people try. But this is
Undeservedly.
yeah, absolutely the Distillers Edition. So let us know what you think of that one. And Neil Bolton saying he's saving these 2 for another time. Do love a good bourbon. JB.
I would say I'm very happy to see all the love for bourbon on this chat because sometimes it doesn't get the love.
Yeah, Paul Birrell, sweet, silky first impression, and Clive Hampton saying it's a beautiful bourbon. So yeah, we do. Have we done a bourbon box before? I do think that would be a.
We haven't. I'd feel like that could be divisive. But we have done some sort of American themed boxes for July, for 4th of July.
You tell us, guys. Do you think that's divisive? I don't know. Louise Fadina, who is new, and I remember you saying you're new. I'm really getting involved, so big up, Louise. Love the bourbon.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Right, that's enough of us. We're going to invite our guests back onto the stage just for a final. There we go. Dave appears. Welcome back, Dave.
No worries.
And I feel harsh now because I didn't see that Ronan wasn't there. I didn't do that on purpose. I saw the empty chair, and he probably had no idea about how short that little.
He thought we had another tasting going.
Oh, sorry. Tasting was going to be. So I've just set him up, right? But I'm assuming he might want to come back onto the stage at some point in the future.
No.
But if not, sorry about that. What do you like bourbon, Dave? Is it something you've dipped your toe in at all?
Yeah, I do. I actually went through a phase of buying quite a lot of different world whiskies just to broaden my experience, broaden my palate. Yeah, I'm partial to bourbon, but I do tend to gravitate back to Scotch, I must admit. But I do like bourbon cask whiskey. I know there's a trend to go sherry cask. I like to mix it up. I must admit I do like. And again, I think Ronan mentioned about palates changing depending on what people's lunch, etc. Sometimes I'm in the mood for a big peated flavour, and other times, it's something a bit lighter. And that's, I guess, one of the wonders of whiskey.
That is absolutely correct. I agree with all that. Ronan, I'm very sorry. I did just add you back on. It was a very short little chat that me and Jess just had.
Oh, no, sorry, my dog been aggravated by something, so I had to go down and make sure he was okay.
That's absolutely fine. I just kind of added you back and expected it was just the empty chair. But welcome back anyway. We were just talking about bourbon. Is there something, are you a big bourbon drinker? We're talking about Rebel 100 that we just tried.
I wouldn't say I'm a big bourbon drinker. No, I don't mind bourbon. I did some work in the States and lived out there for a bit, so I sort of got used to drinking bourbon. It probably wasn't bourbon of any good quality, but yeah, I prefer more a bourbon matured whiskey than bourbon, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. So before we just get on to just maybe like some final roundups, you guys have all kind of said already. So do let us know. And if you are new to Pour and Sip, it's a question I often ask. And as our guests will know, whiskey is very subjective, and there are no right or wrong answers. There is no best or worst. But do let us know what your favourite of tonight's box has been. If you want to give us an order, you want me to read that out of your preferences from tonight's box, please let us know, and I'll read them all out. And the winner will be crowned king or queen of Pour and Sip, and they will have a crown put on them. So whether you're Dave or Ronan, whatever. So yeah, please let us know. What about other stuff that Dave? Is there anything that's been interesting that you've tried recently outside of your own brand?
I do like peated whiskey, so I'm looking forward to trying Meikle Tòir. When I was at GlenAllachie, it was very much a work in progress. So I'm looking forward to that. We are working out with our own brands. What else do I like? Yeah, probably peated stuff is what I'm quite partial to peated whiskey. Yeah, so and I know I might be not in the minority, but not everybody takes to peat.
No, we've had so many different like kind of opinions, obviously, on Pour and Sip with all our guests, and one that often is a common one when we introduce peaty drams is it obviously is more divisive than any of the others, and people have kind of preconceptions that they don't like it because they've tried a smoky one that they just don't like, or it just doesn't appease them. Is that something you found in the industry, Ronan? Is hard to kind of convince people to like peaty whiskey, or just not everyone has to like it? That's the thing.
I mean, not everyone has to like peated whiskey. If probably not tried. You try one peated whiskey and you say, "Oh, I don't like all peated whiskey." It would be like saying, "I've tried one non-peated whiskey and I don't like non-peated whiskey."
Yeah.
There's different levels. There's different styles, as we've went through. There's different styles on Islay. If you've tried an Islay, you don't like Islay peat. There's
the difference. Yeah. Some people have said they prefer the kind of the heathery kind of Highland peat than they do to the kind of the Islay Sea Spray kind of that or the TCP kind of notes and the really heavy kind of Islay peat. I actually really liked the Lefroy advert a while ago. I don't know, because they really just talked about they really leaned into the kind of like the divisiveness of it, and they used to show that at the cinemas and stuff. I just thought it was a really good advert to kind of like lots of people find this disgusting, but we're going to really kind of celebrate that. It tastes like hospital floor and stuff like that, or wet fish. What about yourself, Jess? Where do you stand on peaty whiskey?
Do you know what I think? I think the peat in this Meikle Tòir is kind of right up my street, but I like most things, to be honest. I think it just depends on the mood, and I think a lot of the time I've drunk peaty whiskey like in situ, where it tastes a lot better. I feel like, well, I've been to Skye, I imagine Talisker probably tastes like a Guinness in Dublin, Yeah, I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to most things, but I would say super savoury peat probably I would reach for the least.
Okay, fair enough. Which is just a question, because Dave, you were talking about the distillery, and obviously you work with Bruichladdich, and the kind of focuses on sustainability and all the things like this. What do you think about the future with making peated whiskey and sustainability with a new distillery?
I think it's fine. It's not my real area of expertise, but to the best of my knowledge, Scotland has plenty of peat. So I would think we should be all right for all that's actually required. You're not going to talking. I mean, for those of you who've been to Lefroy or whatever, what are you talking about? A wheelbarrow full of peat thrown on the kiln to generate the smoke. Obviously, with slightly more for the likes of Kalila. But I think we should be all right with careful management, and we should be all right. I would think.
So is that something you thought about, Ronan? That's all.
We went up and visited the peat bog at St Fergus, and they manage their sustainability. There's obviously parts that set aside that are regenerating. Obviously, that takes quite a long time, but whiskey isn't the biggest user of peat in Scotland. We're probably one of the smallest Australia users, so there's other places that can be limited. The sort of garden centres that use it for burning off fires, etc. If you limit that, then something like distilleries would be able to continue. It is a relatively small amount in the grand scheme of things when it comes to
That's my understanding, Ronan. I can't remember where, so I probably shouldn't be mentioning, but I'm sure I saw a study somewhere that said if once the compost stopped used for compost, etc., for all the amount that the whisky industry uses, the peat beds will actually regenerate that. It is a tiny amount. It's not my area of expertise.
I was actually told in the last tasting that we did that mushrooms are a bigger user of peat, I think in the UK or something, than whiskey, which was sad because I love mushrooms. But don't quote me on that, but it stuck with me. So yes.
Yeah,
you have to remember in Scotland there is mile upon mile, thousands upon thousands of acres just lying empty, nothing. And a huge proportion of that is peat beds.
Well, anyway, I mean, more importantly, I love peated whiskey. So,
I know Andy trying to bring up the big questions after tastings.
No, sorry, bad memories. Did we go to Islay together, Jess? Was that with you?
Sorry?
Did I go to
Islay?
No, sorry, no, that was a different trip.
But I have been to Islay, but not with you, unfortunately.
Anyway, so.
But time to crown the king.
Time to crown. There's lots of answers going on. Neil Bolton said, just going back to the bourbon thing, you got me onto bourbon when you did New Riff a while ago. Love New Riff. We had that ages ago. I absolutely love that stuff.
I've still got a lot of bottles of New Riff because I stock up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, everyone is, people were saying they're up for a bourbon box. It's not as divisive as you think. Steve Williams is saying a Six Nations box. I think we've done something similar. Possibly.
We've also been told not to do a bourbon box. I would be happy with one. I'm not trying to shun the ideas.
I'm not gonna put words into the mouths of the people who organised this, but I think bourbon box would be great because there's different types of bourbon, so web. Malcolm Tucker nicked into the Open Distillery on a lunch stop on Tòir in April. Managed 4 dram stove in half an hour. Good, responsibly, yeah. Steve Williams, I've yet to find a bourbon I'm really taken by, so would not like a whole box. There you go, Jess. So people from Motham will look at that and go, we're absolutely not doing a bourbon box.
No, Steve said no.
Steve said, but Simon said no problem with a bourbon box. Richard Wingrove, I'd be happy with a bourbon box for a little change.
Andy, I feel like you've got an agenda.
Simon, Simon loved the themed boxes we get, like the PT ones. So, anyway, let's go back. So,
right.
Jeremy Anderson, all good, but I would rank best to next best.
Meikle Tòir takes
Clydebuilt, Dalmore, Rebel, and the Oban, Colin Bathgate. I'd be keen to see an occasional single distillery box. That's interesting. But I suppose if you don't like that distillery, then you're really screwed. At least with a whole bourbon box, you can. There's probably something you're gonna like. But, if we do a whole kind of, I don't know, Lefroy box.
Lomond would be like probably the best single distillery box to do because it's so different.
I suppose so. Steve Williams, why have I got 3 whiskies, bottles of whiskey in my basket? There you go. Colin Bathgate, all 3 drams, lovely. 3rd Dalmore, safe, easy drinking jam. 2nd Meikle Tòir would satisfy my need for smoke on certain occasions. And 1st Clydebuilt, a beautiful, complex dram. Malcolm Tucker, the Rebel, is doing nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. All I get on the nose is woody tannin. As for the palate, I'm getting lemon puff biscuits. Some butter finishing on the wood spice. Richard Wingrove, I'm going for the Clydebuilt tonight. Neil Bolton, really hard to split the Sailmaker and the Meikle Tòir, but think Sailmaker just takes it. Get that crown ready, Dave. No, I'm joking.
Well, Chris Randall's voted for Meikle.
Look, I'm delighted that Sailmaker won that, but it's not like you're comparing 2 different contracts against a shed. But do you know what? I'll take it, and I think it just shows the art of blending, making the sum greater than the parts. And someone said about hashtag anti-blend snobbery or whatever. That sums it up. A tasting, trying them all head to head. So yeah, delighted. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You can put that on the back of your bottles or something.
January 2024 winner. We're rushing out the gold medals as we speak. Firing up.
But anyway, there are some others. Clydebuilt, it's a photo finish, but the Rebel 100 took it on the line. I mean, there you go. It's Chinquapin Williams. I think the Meikle Tour for me, as I'm saying, 3 in the basket at the moment. That's literally never happened before. Sailmaker for me from David Norcross. Meikle Tour close second. Malcolm Tucker have never hidden the fact I like smoky whiskies. That is Meikle Tour for me. I really enjoyed the Dalmore and the Sailmaker too. I mean, the real take home here is everyone seems to like everything, and that's the
which basically just means that we made a really good box.
A really good box. Jess, do you
Really
want to read
good
out those last few? Because I feel like we should read everyone's comments out, even though.
Where did you get to,
I
Andy?
was up to Paul Birrell. I was up to Paul Birrell saying, "Oh, enjoyed all so far, but I like these whiskies."
Well, David Norcross is loving the Rebel.
There you go.
Paxman's loving all of them because
That sounds like Red Bull, by the way. You just said that.
Rebel.
I thought it said Red Bull. Well, like I did not expect that in the tasting. So.
Rebel 100. P. Barrett, the Clydebuilt is the best of the first 3, followed by Dalmore and Meikle Tour. Jan Robinson was surprised that they liked the Meikle Tour so much, but the Rebel 100 was sweet and smooth. So my favourite first for Rebel 100.
JB saying another expensive night. Yeah, so it is always the poorest. But we do give you a discount. So come on. Chinquapin Williams, 100% brilliant box tonight. And on that note, I think we should wrap up and say thank you to our guests, Dave and Ronan. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jess, as always. Thank you, Pour and Sippers, those old and new. And we will see you in February. As always, I don't know the exact date.
I believe it's the 8th.
It's the 8th of February.
If that's a Thursday.
We'll see you then. And yeah, thank you very much. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Has everyone got a glass in their hand so we can do a final, a final thing for the thing? Come on, Jack.